Well, hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Fearless Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Lynne, and today I'm very happy to have my friend and fellow Canadian, Adam Clarke, on. Adam, welcome.
Hey, Michelle. It's good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh my gosh, we've been talking about this episode forever. Today is going to be a little bit different because we are actually coming together to share stories and possibly rant about scams that we have seen in the classical music industry. And it was actually you who suggested this idea for a podcast episode, and I thought it was brilliant. So that's what we're going to be diving in deep to today.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think we've all had our fair share of people trying to offer us far too much when it seems too good to be true. And I guess it's worth taking a look at that, right? So,
Yeah, definitely. And I think people don't talk about it so much openly. And I think this is a great place to start the conversations and also kind of make sure we've got each other's backs in the sense of, hey, are you aware that this is a thing? Don't buy into this lie. Don't lose your money. We'll see. We'll see where this episode goes.
yeah. We can always add a bleep here and there, and then we're good to go.
First, I wanna comment like 2 Canadian accents. This is gonna be a really fun episode, so I'm looking forward. But you are coming to us from Antwerp, just an hour away from me in Maastricht, so we're both expats.
Yeah, ironically, you and I are from opposite parts of Canada. You're from Alberta. I'm from Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is like right near Boston for anybody that doesn't know where Nova Scotia is. And now we're in neighboring countries. And that was just sort of happenstance that we met each other. But I'll give you like a little background, quick intro, who I am, and then we'll jump into the topics. So I am a classical composer, but my niche is I mostly write for ballet and for dance. I've done that since about 2016 here in Antwerp when I moved to Belgium. And now I'm moving into theater and developing my own pieces. When you're writing for ballet and dance, you are often I don't know, it's like writing for film. You support the narrative that the choreographer or the director wants to bring forward. So that's what I've done. And long story short, everyone says, why Belgium? Belgium is, I think, one of the best kept secrets in Europe for
Ooh,
art. Yeah,
okay.
really, really. Because Antwerp,
Mhm,
everyone drives through Antwerp to get to London, to get to Paris, to get to Rotterdam, to get to Amsterdam. And there's a huge support for culture within Flanders specifically and Belgium as a
mhm,
whole and population
mhm.
density. So that's what brought me here initially, right? So guitar
Yeah.
album with Four Aces Guitar Quartet led to my master's degree. I wrote music for some of the dance performers at the conservatory. And then some dancer from the Ballet Flanders, Opera Ballet Flanders said, hey, I like what you do. Come and write something for me. And that started the whole trajectory of composing for dance. And
That's
so,
amazing, Adam. I didn't
yeah,
know that.
well, and we met because of Dimitri, and
Yeah.
Dimitri was introduced to me via by someone I studied with, and now we collaborate a lot. Now you and I are starting things together as well, which is a lot of fun.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so here we are.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see how we've been able to connect and introduce. I mean, I had no idea, like a fellow Canadian, only an hour away, pursuing a portfolio career, multiple divisions, disciplines. It's amazing that we finally got to meet each other. And what you're saying about Belgium, I had a day off yesterday in Brussels, and I was just admiring. Like we tried to go to the Fine Arts Museum, it was closed. It was Monday, but I was realizing again, like actually, Brussels has such this, like, eclectic, creative vibe, and
Mm.
I think that there's so much depth kind of hidden. You have to kinda know where to be, where to go, people to meet. Otherwise, I'm just going through Brussels to get out of there, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. Don't
Yeah.
ever drive in Brussels on a Friday. If you have a death wish, it's a great decision. But yeah, no, Brussels is a really dance centric city, and I agree with what you say. With helps to really know people, and I think that these opportunities and these scams that we're going to talk about, um, it's probably
Opportunities in
best.
quotation marks.
Yeah, opportunities exactly. Actually, I just wrote it down in quotations over here as well. So,
Yeah.
um, it's better to invest in the folks that are in your artistic community than it is to take a chance on some random email. And so we've
Oh,
both in
man.
our time come across so many of those, right?
I mean, just briefly, like, we love hearing about how careers open up as we take action, so it's incredible that you committed to coming over, you did your master's, and then somebody says, "Hey, I like what you do. Let me introduce you to this whole new world for you," right? And now that's become like a major part of your career. And I think the second part of this episode, we want to talk about grant writing, which is something that you are like superly highly skilled in. And I really appreciated how you told me you developed that skill to facilitate your creative pursuits projects. And I just thought that is the fearless attitude 101. I love hearing about people taking action like that. Like, oh, we need money to fund the project.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll learn how to write grants really well. It's like, wow, that is such a victorious mindset, action taking. I love hearing that. We're not victims. We just figure it out. We get her done. My
we get her
Canadian
done.
accent is coming out.
Yeah, we get her done.
We get her done. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. Okay, so Adam, please, you pitched me actually this idea last summer already. You sent me a voicemail, a ranty voice message
Yeah,
about
Ranty.
something that happened to you, which I love receiving ranty voice messages. So please, can you walk us through what happened?
Yeah, yeah, this one's good fun. At first, when you run into these opportunities, you get I used to get upset, but now I just kinda have fun with them because I've been able to identify them, and I think it really helps to be able to read through and poke some fun at it, right? And so I
Right.
got an email
It's like when
from
the telescammers call and you're like trying to keep them on the line as long as
yeah,
possible, right?
you put
Yeah.
the phone
Okay.
inside of a dish and you hit it with a spoon, that sort of a thing, you know?
Okay.
Um, no, I got an email last summer, and I
Yeah.
think Dimitri also got an email from them at what point, and
I think I
they
did as well.
were yeah, yeah, all of us, I think, right? And they're like, "We will represent you. We're a company based in Switzerland, and,
Yes.
what we want to do is, we're gonna just talk to theater houses across Europe, and we really love your vision, blah, blah, blah. Could you have time for an hour-long call?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm open to just have the call." I was curious, right? Um
Yeah.
of course, it felt very scammy at first, but I wanted to
Mhm.
see who these
Mhm.
people were, and they actually got on
Yeah.
the phone call with me, It's like a Zoom, and I was chatting with them, and they said, "Yeah, so you read through the contract and blah, 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 and, there's no guarantees, but, we will do our very best to sell whatever your work is." And the first thing I asked them is like, "So what do you know about me?" They did a
Mm.
very good job at actually researching who I was and what I do.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that was a yellow flag, we'll say. But the
Okay.
next thing was the CEO of this company was speaking to me, and I said, "So, okay, so your friend here is from Romania, your colleague here is from Romania. Oh, I love Bucharest, spent a lot of time there. So where are you from? Are you also from Romania?" And she's like, "No, no, I'm from London. I grew up in London." And it's like, "Uh-huh. Uh-huh." She spoke with a very thick Eastern European accent. So it was like I
Right.
was like, "Okay, this is hilarious." And so I said, "Okay, just send the contract. I wanna see what it looks like." And they had a clause in there that was like, "You have to pay us a fee, I think every quarter for us
Yeah.
to we'll guarantee we'll call these people, but we guarantee no results. And any
Yeah.
work that you do for the next 5 years, you need to pay a percentage to us."
Insane.
Yeah.
And that's work that they don't necessarily get you, just anything that you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's why it's important to read through your contracts, right? But I just wanted to go into depth, but and see where it went. I don't know what the experience is like for you. Did you
I
just
had the very similar email. I remember it being flattering, like, "Oh, we have found you and we love what you're doing, and then we would love to represent you." And I mean, I think that they know how to play into your emotions because most musicians feel isolated and we feel alone and we just want someone to do the work for us. I mean, we have people on our membership and they're like, "I'm spending more time on my computer than at my instrument. It's pissing me off." So when you have someone write you and they're like, "Listen, we will pitch 10 concert venues for you per month." I think they said I would pay 200 a month or something. Like they had different packages that they were offering me.
Mhm.
And I looked into it, I searched their website and stuff. I'm like, cause maybe this is something that's worth investing in. Cause if they book you a gig, like the fee's higher than 200, okay, boom, this is ROI. Like this is how it works. But then you start digging in, talking to people. Have you got this email? Yeah. Okay. We all got it. Okay, fine. Of course, they need to pitch multiple musicians, but then you look at the roster of artists that they have. This is something else that they'll do. They don't send a tailored, personalized pitch to a venue saying, hey, this artist, Adam, has this specific theater productions coming up that would fit because XYZ. They're not really working to create this kind of collaboration. They will send an email with all 10 or 20 of their artists, and they say, pick one of our artists to book at your
Mhm.
theater." And that's what they're counting as one of the 10 pitches per month that they send you. They're doing kind of like these mass email pitches. And it's like, well, you could take your 200 a month and just sit at your computer and do that yourself. And then maybe have a better shot because it's more personalized and coming from you.
That's something, if you've ever sent emails to venues, especially at least in my experience, I started a dance theater company with a choreographer a couple years ago. We since moved on, but in the process of creating these pieces together, you have to send out like so many emails to venues,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the booking people, like the producers, they're so busy and they get so many emails that
Mhm.
you might not get an answer. So if they pitch like these 20 artists to all these folks, the likelihood that they will even read the email, especially like me or yourself or anyone that's come across this enough times, you're a bit allergic
Yeah.
to it. And I feel like
Yeah.
if I was a programmer, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not looking at this. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, right.
so
Yeah, they do receive so much, and I think what's the most upsetting is that they would take 20% of anything that you do regardless of if they when they don't guarantee results and then they say, "We take 20% of everything." I mean, for me, my Candlelight contract is something completely separate from any of my, let's say, pure classical concerts. So I would never put myself in a position where I'm somehow paying my Candlelight concert fees to another organizer who had nothing to do with that. And that's something that I've been building for 3 years with a completely different group of people. I mean, at what point, like, we have to protect what we've been building and boundaries. And I hate that they prey on the vulnerability and the emotion of the artist who just wants to have the manager, teaching it entrepreneurship. The students are saying, well, I just would really like a manager because then they'll do that for me. They'll take care of me. They'll get me the gigs and I can just practice and show up. And I'm like, yes, like I really hope that that works for you. But even when we talk to people who have management, it doesn't always go that way. So we have to be like aware of what's possible.
no, you gotta build your own career and build a name for yourself where your manager, if you decide to get one, or even like a publisher as a composer, you need to have a career that's already invested in and started moving, and then they can work with that, but they can't take it from nothing, you know? It's
Yeah.
really, and I'm not saying just because you've not performed a lot that you've done nothing. There's a lot of work that goes in before you even get like the first couple gigs or even start gaining a reputation. So that must be really interesting for you teaching the entrepreneurship class. I am a bit removed from that world a little bit. So
Hmm.
what was your
Hmm.
general consensus when musicians show up into your entrepreneurship class? Do you see a lot of folks? Do they ever bring any of these sort of scams, opportunities, or
I mean, I'm
questions to your
teaching year
class?
one right now in year two. So they're 18, 19. Like for them, it's just all their whole world is practicing and they just want to, I mean, they just moved out of their parents' home. And so they're not really at this level. But where we do see it is with the fearless artist. So in our membership calls, like people will bring stuff, which someone recently had won a competition. So get this, this is another big scam. By the way, on Instagram stories yesterday, I asked people to share their own experiences. So we got a few responses, and this was one of them. So he wins first prize at this competition. It was an online thing, and they say, "Guess what? Part of your prize, you get to come play in Carnegie Hall." Okay, amazing. Put it on the resume, get to go play in Carnegie, amazing. Turns out he gets 5 minutes on stage and he needs to pay $1,500 to play. So he came to our call and was like, "Guys, what do I do? Is this worth it? Is it worth it for me to be able to say I've performed at Carnegie?" And we're like, "How do we even start?" Like, first of all, it is just so rude for them to take advantage. And again, if you're gonna fund a competition, I understand that putting on competitions costs a lot of money. You gotta fund it. You gotta pay your jury. You gotta pay for the tech if it's online. I mean, of course, there's a budget involved, but to put it on the artists that you're then trying to promote and like it's just insane. So we had a big conversation about it, and we tried to get all the details and make sure, and then finally, I think the person decided that it wasn't worth it for them to, because then on top of the 1,500, you gotta fly to New York, get your hotel, pay I mean, it was gonna be like $3,000 for him to get 5 minutes on stage in Carnegie. So, that was upsetting to me because I felt like he was being taken advantage of.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough. I think that sounds to me like the right decision. I mean, if you have 3 grand to put into doing something for 5 minutes at Carnegie, I think honestly, you might as well put 3 grand into doing something that might more directly benefit your career and your artistry within the circle that you sort of exist in or you want to expand out of. I'll give you a
Yeah.
great example. My first composition professor, Derek Chark, a Juno Award-winning composer, one of my favorite people ever. I really love Derek.
Great.
He gave me a couple pro tips as a composer, and one of them relates to this, and it's sometimes it's better to be accepted at a lesser known university and get the opportunities to have your music performed by visiting ensembles or an orchestra or anything else, as opposed to going to a school like the Manhattan School of Music or Juilliard, where if you're not like the top when you just get into your bachelor one, you're going to lose out on all these other opportunities for growth. And I thought this was a really interesting point. Would you rather have the 5 minutes at Carnegie Hall, which is the big name, or would you have more opportunity within your own sphere? And I think that's a really
Mm.
wise decision on behalf of your fearless mastermind member there. It's
Yeah, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, that's a great point, and I think somebody did say, like, put that 3K into, making a music video of your recent recording or, like, doing some genuine marketing for yourself or, I mean, even hiring a marketer who's not gonna use you, you know? You had one that you wanted to talk about, a call for scores?
oh yeah, call for scores. Actually, this turned out to be pretty good for me, this one, but it's because I
Oh, okay.
pivoted and because Canada Council is, yeah, I got a grant for, no, it wasn't Canada Council, it was the Nova Scotia Talent Trust. This is like 2016, and I was accepted to do some sort of an ensemble residency in Eastern Europe, and I got accepted, great. I got the grant application submitted and got my first chunk of cash from NSTT. Thanks to them, by the way. Definitely support NSTT if you want to support arts in Nova Scotia. They're awesome. And I read the contract and it said, "We own your music." It's like, nah. I was like, no. So I
Okay,
just went on Facebook and I was like, "Hey, does anyone have a residency that I can attend?" And it turned out a friend of mine, Jasmine works quite a lot with John William Watson. If you don't know John William Watson as a choreographer, they are awesome. So check
okay.
them out. Anyways, she's like, "Hey, yeah, I know one in Crete. It
Oh,
costs
I
less
love
than what your
Crete.
thing is." And so I called up NSTT and I said, "Hey, yo, let me. Do you mind if I go do this?" And it was brilliant. I got to work with dancers. I got to learn to play Cretan folk music. It
Oh,
was
wow.
really beautiful, and eat the freshest watermelons and tomatoes ever. So if you can identify your scams and then redirect yourself towards something that's even better or find something kind of like this opportunity, I think it can really. The scams are not necessarily a bad thing so long as you can identify them because it helps you refine what is a good opportunity. I think that maybe is a bit of a benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Good for
So
you for reading these contracts. I also had, like, a manager in London approach me, and it seemed like he wanted to break into the music world. He had some contacts in, like, I don't know, ca racing cars or something. He was kinda like a affluent person, and he wanted to, like, support musicians, and so, we had, like, chatted a bit, and you wanna give people a chance, the benefit of the doubt. And then he sent over the contract, and it was just like, again, take each of anything that I did, including, like, photo shoots, modeling opportunities, singing, as well as piano, and it's like, "Whoa, whoa, like, you were telling me you were gonna get me some piano concerts in London. You have nothing to do with, like, my dress brand deal or, like, my original songs that I'm performing, like, how is this?" Everything kinda gets conglomerated, and then unless you're like you're saying, "We own your music." Excuse me? Like, where did
yeah,
this
you're like,
come
nah.
like, no, you don't. No, you don't, right. Okay, here's another one that I think comes through a lot, and it's the dead husband piano scam. Have you heard
Yeah.
about it? I'll just read the email. Okay, "Hello. I hope this finds you well. I'm a widow whose husband had a passion for music but never went pro." So sad. "I have a Yamaha grand piano belonging to my late husband." By the way, husband is capitalized every single time. I don't know why. For adoption. She wants someone to adopt her husband's piano. "I'm looking to give away my late husband," again, all caps, "grand piano to a loving home music school. Let me know if you would like to have the piano or know anyone who would appreciate the instrument. I look forward to hearing from you. Where city are you?" Kind regard.
Where city are you?
So,
Indeed.
where city are you? Where city?
I
So,
city am
anyway,
Antwerp. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think so what I've understood is they offer to send you this piano, and then they ask for you to pay the shipping or something, and so you
Mm.
send them the shipping costs, and then either they ghost you. Another one is that you, like, overpay them somehow, and then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna send you the money back," but then they never send you or no, sorry. It's that they send you the fee. That's the birthday kid song scam, which is the next one that I have. So, they'll say, "Hi, I love your music. Can you write a song for my son? His birthday is next week. I went through your page. I think I just fell in love with your music. I would just love a simple birthday song which has his name in it. I would pay you $200 if that's okay." And so you're like, you check the profile, there's some pictures, okay, he wants to write his kid a birthday song, that's kinda nice. Support young artists, okay, and again, and so the scam is that he would overpay the $200, he would send 400 or something, and then he
Yeah.
would say, "Oh, can you send me back the the too much amount that I paid, 200?" And then the initial 400 payment just wouldn't go through or he would block it or whatever, so then you're out
Yeah.
$200. So, those 2 things and it's kind of obvious to musicians, I think, however, like, they also sent that email to my church, and so my poor sweet secretary emailed me, and she's like, "Oh, Michelle, like, look, they wanna donate a piano to our church." I'm like,
Oh,
"No, they
no.
don't.
Oh,
No, they
no. Oh,
don't."
no.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw one, yesterday. Okay, this one is a gray zone, so it might not be a scam per se, and I don't think it necessarily is, but I think it is something to be weary of, and you might better invest your money elsewhere. So, uh, singer from Belgium, friend of mine, went to a competition, some singing competition in another European country that will remain unnamed, and there are several hundred applicants that are accepted there, not just chosen to show up, but 400 of, I don't know, however X many people that applied in the first place with an application fee of 120 euros. And
Yikes.
they choose 20
Okay.
people out of those 400 who are going to be the, I don't know, the winning sopranos or tenors or whatever, whomever's singing. And my, my more skeptical side thinks if there's a competition that's worth doing, they would have a lower, application fee, like 30 euros is something that I can get behind because, of course, competitions do have their costs, and you do need to cover it. However, I think an exorbitant fee like 120 bucks a person, I feel like it's
Mhm.
just a fundraising round, and
Mhm.
I could be wrong, right? So don't take
Mhm.
this for gospel, but the feeling I get is exactly what you said. They're trying to get money out of these artists that are they're trying to build a career and you
The
give
artists need the
people
money.
hope on a stick, it's hanging from
Yes.
a
Yeah,
hook and
yeah.
they'll go for it. They'll chuck the money. They've got the flights, they've got the hotels and the food. And then they've got either one out of the 20 people or the disappointment of not reaching that. And I think um, competitions are important if you were going down the competition route. I don't know very much about the world, but my understanding is that you train to present in a certain way within a competition setting, and thus you will get access to different levels of your career. Totally viable, but I don't think it's the only way. And this is the thing I really like about what you do with the Fearless Mastermind is you teach folks to look at themselves, identify what sort of interesting combination of skill sets they have in order to
Yeah.
lead a career that is theirs, an individual, and not some follow copy paste thing. And it's okay if you follow a regular route. You go play in an orchestra. If you love it, hell yeah, go for it. But I love that you give people another option because this is the way that I've had to go too. And I'm all the more grateful for it. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I know I totally agree with you that the application fee and then, some people who wrote in yesterday via the story said once you win the competition money, you then have to pay taxes on it. One of our flutists wrote in, she had to was told to pay 10,000 to participate in an orchestral festival that you, quote, "need to be successful."
what?
Um, yeah, I know. And then she also submitted somebody wanted her to pay $1,000 for lesson or they wanted to pay her $1,000 for lessons, but she had to wire the extra money to their dying wife abroad.
It's the Nigerian prince.
Yeah, someone else came in and said, agents, again, getting a percentage of your bookings, even if they didn't book that gig, so similar to what we already shared.
Hmm.
Paying tax on a competition prize money after paying to be in the competition. And then somebody said the biggest scam is the one that you talk about at the Fearless Artist, which is that college degrees don't prepare you for the industry. And that is a whole other topic
Yes.
of but, I mean, Chris Still, who's from Honesty Pill, he also said, "If you're paying $40,000 a year for, US education and they're not training you how to take auditions," I mean, he was, like, very much against that. That's why he's come up with his whole, accelerator audition course. But also for us, like, if they're gonna shoot you out into the world and don't tell you what it's gonna be like on the other side or, like, help prepare you to earn income, and then they just come back with numbers of like, "Oh, yeah, the most musicians are at poverty level after finishing their degree." It's like, "Yeah, well, you need to help prepare your students, of course, like, conservatories have so much to teach us already with, like, actually just being skilled at our instruments. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
lifelong quest, of course, but also there should be, like, a sense of responsibility of we need to prepare them to actually be able to earn a living so that they can continue doing this thing that they're paying for.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, uh, how many folks have you graduated with are still pursuing music? And if they stop pursuing music, how much of it is due to not being able to make a living wage from it
A
or
living.
adequately
Yeah,
navigate it? It's insane. I think maybe I can
I would
count
love to
on
know the
one hand.
numbers.
I can
Yeah.
count on one hand. And
Yeah, that's true, and of
it's
course,
crazy,
like,
you know, but
life yeah, there just has to be more preparation for people get families, a lot of my female friends are moms. Well, how are you supposed to okay, then you need childcare if you wanna practice. Well, then who's paying for the childcare? Like, and then if, your husband's at work all day or whatever. I mean, these are reasons why people stop performing, or just, gigging, being all over the place, the travel that's involved to be in these different
Mhm,
places. I mean, there's so many logistical reasons why a career like this is just really hard to figure out on your own. And then on top of it, you have low paying fees or people only offering a few $100 for like 3 rehearsals and a concert. It's like, this is just
oh,
not
yeah.
possible. Okay, a couple of other scams I wanted to mention, on this segment is when I started releasing my own songs, I got a lot of people saying like, "Oh, let us help you get Spotify streams. So, pay us $100 a month and we'll boost your streams or whatever." So, obviously, that's all bots, and it would
Yeah.
just, like, tank your engagement, and I follow a really great guy on Instagram, Venture Marketing, Dustin from Venture, and he talks a lot about, like, the risks associated with, like, shooting up your stream, Spotify banning you, and anyway, big mess. Also buying Instagram followers. A lot of people have in the
Oh,
past paid,
God.
like, the $15 to have, a bunch of new followers that turned out all to be, again, botted, or people what I've seen is they're real accounts, but they'll, like, agree to follow because they've been signed on to this whatever that they're told to go follow all of these accounts that have come into the
Mm,
thing. I did receive a pitch that, I bought into a year ago that ended up being a scam, and they wrote me a very specific, compelling pitch. They were like, "Hey, Michelle, like, we've looked at" like what you said about how they had done their research. For
mhm.
me too, they were like, "We love what you're teaching about entrepreneurship. We see you also have a performing career, blah, blah, blah. This is how we can boost you. You're not getting enough visibility, and, like, your content deserves to be seen by more people." And you're kinda like, "Yeah, man, I worked so hard for this content," and, like, it was like $100 a month, and then they were supposed to, like, organically do engagement. And then in the end, I think it was just that they were getting bots to come on and like the page or follow me back or whatever, and so then I wrote them and I'm like, "Hey, I want a refund," which was promised in their terms and conditions, and they're like, "Oh, no, because you didn't tell us in this way or this timing," or whatever. There was something, and I was out $100 and I was also very mad. So, another scam to
Well, it's kind
avoid.
of one of those things we attend some events. We went to a gala in Brussels a couple months ago, and there was someone that we met there. And I went to their Instagram. You know, you just want to see who you know in common or what they're up to. And you see like 12,000 followers, 13,000 followers. And then when they post a reel or they post a photo, it's like 7 likes, 8 likes.
Yeah,
It's like, ah, okay.
exactly.
Oh man,
Yeah,
don't do that
very
to
good.
yourself. Don't do that to yourself. You're scamming yourself there.
That's a good point. One last one I wanted to share is I got a PR woman who wrote me and said, "Hey, we'd like to feature you in an article in LA Weekly around top 10 entrepreneurs that we have found, in the music world." And she was a real person, and we chatted, and so that basically they're selling spots into this article. So for $500, I could be one of their 10 entrepreneurs featured in the LA Weekly. And it was all, I did my research, it was all legit. So then I was like, is it worth it for me to essentially put $500 towards marketing to get into this article? And then she lists like all of the other publications and how you can use that as leverage to get seen by other bigger media and stuff. So what I ended up doing was I looked up previous articles that she had done and I messaged those people on Instagram and I said, "Hey, like, you don't know me. I liked 3 of their posts and I left a nice comment." And they had big followings, like some of them were like 2 or 300K. And I said, "I would just really love to know if you thought that this opportunity quotation marks, was worth it for you." And, like, surprisingly, like, 3 or 4 of them answered me back and they're like, "Yeah, it brought us nothing." So I was like, "Thank you so much for saving me $500." So for everyone listening, like, if you do think something might be worth looking into, just do your research and talk to other people who have done it. Google is your friend. Don't ever jump into something without really, like, checking both sides of the street before you cross, 'cause I would like that $500 in my pocket.
Yeah,
Or
for
as
real.
you're
I
saying,
mean,
putting it towards something that can actually help.
Well, yeah, it's I think what you're saying, especially with folks listening, it's everyone has run across some form of this sort of scam or opportunity in their career. And I think the best things to do is just kind of have a toolkit of how to evaluate these things properly. And it's exactly what you said. You got to look both ways before you cross the street. You got to talk to other people, for instance, within your mastermind. You
Mhm.
bring it to everyone together. And
Yeah.
also you go talk to industry professionals or people that you respect and say, "Hey, listen, would
Mhm.
you ever do stuff like this?" Like, there's some folks that you might look up to, that might seem out of reach, but honestly, you'd be surprised how much people like helping folks with small little favors. Maybe just quickly, I'd love to touch on a couple things that I think people can focus on instead,
Yes,
because
please. This
instead
is
of just
exactly what
saying
we need.
no to scams, maybe here's some actionable material. There's a couple big things. The number one thing for me, aside from being proficient at whatever your practice is, whether it's composing or playing piano, is showing up. And what do I mean by showing up is these people that you want to work with, they need to see that you're active in the scene. So this is like
Mm.
I grew up playing heavy metal, and heavy metal scene was you knew each
Yes.
other and you got introductions to people because, oh yeah, this band, yeah, they opened for us down in Berwick. So we're bringing them up to Halifax, and I think this thing still happens today. And I actively practice this, eh? So like, there's a
Okay.
co-production I want to have with a venue here. I haven't been to a show at the venue in a while, and I need to ask them for something. And so it would be kind of rude for me, my personal feeling, if I was just be like, yo, give me a letter of intent. I haven't seen one of your shows in forever. So you go to a show, you interact with them again, you show that you're
Yes.
actually genuinely invested in what they
Yes.
do. And then you can ask and say, hey, listen, so by the way, we talked about doing a co-production for this thing, blah, 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 blah. So that part of showing up, people know who you are. They trust me. They talk about you and ask questions with people that are related to them that they already trust and have worked with forever. The next thing I would say is you have to start your own projects. I was fortunate enough to grow up with a mom who was an entrepreneur. She ran her own business as a career counselor out of our house, and she was very successful. And when we were first starting as a band playing heavy metal, I was 13 or 14, and we wanted to record a demo. And what she did was instead of just bankrolling it, because she could have put like $1,000 in and, whatever, she gave us her time. And what she taught me was how to go seek sponsors, how to put
Wow.
together a promotion plan. And she taught me how to do crowdfunding before crowdfunding online was even a thing. And I am so fortunate for that. So I get that folks might not have that background, and that's really tough. But this is also why you should meet up with Michelle, because she knows how to do it, and the mastermind, and they can actually coach you on how to do this. And once people see the projects that you're doing yourself and you bring other people on board, those people that you brought on board, they're going to mention your name to other people. And folks are going to come see your projects and your performances. It might be 5 people in the first one, but it might be 500 2 years later, you know? And
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
those are two really, really important actionable things.
How beautiful of with your mom, by the way, just to say, like, what a way to honor her as well, because that is so powerful what she did for you to actually teach you. I mean, it's like give a man a fish or teach a man to fish, right? And
Mhm.
now you've been able to build your career based on these fundaments that she taught you. That's just so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. She had a very, very big impact on the way that I lead my life. And this, ironically, the third part and the final part that I'll say on actionable approaches is calculated risk. Now, not everyone can leave home. It might be a financial thing. It might be your family's important for you. But for me, my mom died in 2015, and that was it was terrible, but it
I'm
also
sorry.
gave me the permission to leave. And
Mm.
so I bought a one-way ticket to Germany, and
Mm.
I lived in Germany for a year. I'd already lived there before, and I spoke German, so it was fine. And it allowed me to take that risk of dropping myself somewhere brand new to start a career with like nothing. I was dirt poor. And I think by taking this calculated risk to move to another country and like moving to Belgium as well. And Germany as a Canadian citizen, you can just get an Aufenthaltstitel. This is your work permit. Like you snap your
Mhm.
fingers, you say speak German, there's your job permit. Belgium does not work like that at all. I had to go through quite a stressful time with immigration in Belgium for about 6 years. It was I could only be self-employed as a composer.
Mm, mhm.
And so by being forced through circumstance to be successful in some way, you have to prove a certain amount of money. It helped my career develop. I took the risk of potentially being deported, being away from my family who are spread out all over Canada. And then by forced into this situation and pushing through, it actually turned out so good. It sucked for so long. It was
Yeah.
awful for a really long
Yeah.
time, but it was worth it. And I feel like you have a very similar thing because off you went from Canada and you started a whole life and a career in the Netherlands. And I think doing those things, you don't have to move to a whole new country or something, but taking calculated risks, maybe that risk is talking to that person you admire
Mm.
and just asking for their advice on something. I think those are three things that you should rather focus your time on than these too good to be true opportunities. And that's my 2 cents.
Adam, that was worth way more than 2 cents. Thank you for sharing that because I think what you have said is so important. Showing that you are genuinely interested in being a contribution to someone's project before you is probably the most underlooked way to build what you said, trust, liking people. Of course, people want to help you if they know that you actually care and you're not just in it for yourself. But most musicians do the pitch where it's like, "Hi, here I am. Here's what I play. Book me for the concert." It's like
Yeah.
that is such a cold way to approach someone. So I love that you're sharing about relationship. Thank you for what you shared about your mom and also taking this calculated risk to Germany. I have a similar story of a calculated risk to Europe, the Netherlands. I basically protected myself by saying to my teacher in Montreal, "I'm coming back for the doctorate in 2 years. Save my spot." And he was like, "Yep, no problem. Like, see you in 2 years. You can do the doctorate," which was like a whole other crisis for me. But anyway, so I saved my apartment. I kept my grand piano. I had someone come in and sublet my apartment so that I could go back in 2 years. And I now looking back, that was the way that I protected myself from this huge unknown going across the ocean thing. And then finally after I got here, it was like, "Okay, wait, like I can go to Italy for on a plane. I'm gonna stay for a bit
Oh,
longer and, like, see
yeah.
how if I can figure this out, right?" So and then from there slowly and of course, as you're saying, things were very difficult for a long time, and I had to figure out how to build in this new culture, and my beautiful little concert series has had ups and downs, but now it's at a place where it's like, I'm so proud of having built something, and then, of course, TFA came into the mix, so, and the people that I met, I mean, I would never would have met Deanna if I hadn't have been in Paris, so it's just like you can look back and see like, wow, like, so many blessings come when you put yourself out of your comfort zone, so whatever that means for people listening, and I really like your point about rather than going for these opportunities where someone's gonna swoop in and take care of you and get your concerts and, all for the low price of, 200 a month or whatever it is. It's like, well, let's just use your network, use what's in front of you, talk to the people in your circles, be involved, be in the scene like you're saying, and that is gonna build better fruit and more stable than having some unknown person come in. Much for sharing all that. I just wanna touch also on your grant writing because I think for you, that was such a way that you've been able to facilitate so many of your own projects and also other people's because now you're writing grants for other artists, including us. We're working together to send some grant applications to Canada Council so that I could go speak in Berlin this coming May at the Classical Next conference. So would you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, this touches on a bonus point, which is diversification. And that's find all the different sets of skills that you have and basically don't put all your eggs in one basket whilst you're trying to grow this garden.
Yeah.
You need to
Yeah.
put some
Yeah.
attention everywhere. And so, one of the things that I found I was good at, I've always been a decent creative writer, not an essay format or anything like that, but I was good with poetry, I was good with words, and I was good at creating relationships between things.
Mhm.
I know it sounds so vague, but it's so important within grant writing.
You're a connector in real life with people and also a connector of words and ideas.
I started writing grants out of how the hell do I get money for projects
Yep.
that I want to do? That's the ultimate artist question. Where the hell is the money coming from? Um,
Exactly.
and so I wrote this grant. We came up with this project with some colleagues in Bulgaria. Miko, a cellist friend of mine, so he brought me out to Bulgaria for a project, wrote a piece, and over dinner in Sofia, me and our colleagues, so me, Miko, Edgar, Bogdan, Angelina, said, "Hey, Adam, you play bagpipes, yeah?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I play bagpipes. On the Bulgarian bagpipes, the Gaida. Oh, that's a pretty cool connection. What if we did a project where we, hired 3 composers and did some sort of a cross-cultural thing?" And so we created something called Est-West, East-West. And it was a cultural exchange between Bulgaria and Canada. We submitted the grant application. First grant I ever wrote in like 2017, 2018, denied. And I was like,
Oh,
so I was just finishing my master's in 2018, and then I had 3 months to find it was illegal for me to get a job in Belgium,
okay.
so I had to become self-employed, but you had to prove income.
Uh-huh.
And basically what happened was I got denied, and then I was being evaluated for self-employment, so I was about to be deported. And then Canada Council's like, "Hey, listen, we changed our mind. Here's
No.
$40,000." I
What?
was like, "Yes." Oh,
What?
God
That's
bless the
wild.
Canada Council for the Arts.
They changed their
So,
mind? I've never heard of that
yeah, I
before.
think someone wasn't able to go through with their grant. So how it works is like you submit a bunch of grants, then they choose a bunch of them that meet the criteria, and then there's a ranking system. We can fund 10, and if you're number 11, well, and so I
Okay.
think we were number
Yeah.
11, and then 10 was like, "Whoops, I can't do this." And so we became number 10.
Okay.
That was
Amazing.
that was beautiful. And so that's how that whole
Also,
thing started.
40K is that's no joke. That's a serious amount of money.
Yeah, well, it goes away very quickly when you work with a lot of people, right? So like if
Yeah,
you
right.
if you work on larger projects with folks, pro tip, if you're writing grants, you should be aware that starting small is sometimes a good idea because things get very expensive very quickly, especially when you have to
Yep.
travel with 8 people and a cello. Don't
Yeah.
travel with a cello. It's a nightmare. But basically, so I write grants quite often. I'm working on about 6 grants at the moment right now, all for myself because I finished the yours and also the
You
piano
did.
duo album that we're planning to do together. If anyone here is listening and they need grant writing done, Michelle and I are great friends, so I'm making a deal for folks that go through her is y'all will get an hour-long conversation with me. We can talk through your project. I can give you some advice on how you might go about getting funding, and it's not just about grant writing. I can also teach you a little bit about how to develop a network and develop your co-producers, because co-producers are vital to a successful grant application. And
Yeah.
then if you guys want me to write your grant with you or for you, then that's something that my colleague Leah and I are doing together in partnership with Fearless Artist Mastermind. So
Yes. Yeah, that's one of our
very, very
new
excited
offers
about
that
it.
we're gonna be offering grant writing services through Adam, through the Fearless Artist. So that is a super generous offer. Thank you, Adam, so much. So if you're listening, you're curious about what it would look like to have a grant written for you, you want a consultation, just get in touch with Adam. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody for sending in your scams. Thank you, Adam, for coming on today for this great episode, all the wisdom that you shared. And I particularly love the action points that you shared earlier. I think my favorite one is probably just showing up and being part of the scene and showing that you're a genuine contributor before you make the ask. And I think that's how I've managed to build my network is by hyping people up for like
Yeah.
5 years on Instagram before saying, by the way, we have a membership. Do you want to join? Which is when, I actually hyped them up even more. If anyone else has any good scams for the next part 2 of this episode, let us know in the future, and thanks everybody for listening. Make sure you go follow Adam. Where can we find you?
Find me on Instagram, Adam V. Clarke with an E on the end, or adamvclarke.com.
Awesome, Adam, thanks so much for joining today, and thanks everybody for listening. If you screenshot this and share it to your stories, tag us and we will reshare, and we'll see you next time at The Fearless Artist. Be fearless.